So I've been riding gravel bikes for about 5 years now, and I came to gravel without a background in road or mountain biking. I found gravel as its own discipline, and I've really loved the inclusive nature and the ability to get out and explore sort of the back roads and trails of this outstanding country we have here in Australia. So I've been doing this for about 5 years, and I've been getting more and more curious about pushing things a little bit further. I ride a lot down here on Victoria's stunning Surf Coast area, and down here, the gravel is surrounded by an extended network of fire tracks and rutted goat tracks, hiking trails that are just begging to be explored. And I've tried to get out on some of these on my gravel bike, but I find I'm often sort of really pushing the limit of what's possible. Sort of the geometry gets you in over your head pretty quick, and I often find myself jumping off, having a walk, particularly like steep pinches, really rocky, rooty bits. And sometimes on the downhills, I find that I don't have the bike handling skills to really send it down there, and I have to be pretty cautious. So I've sort of been getting more and more curious about whether I should be investing in a mountain bike to complement my gravel bike and allow me to go a bit further and explore a bit further on some of the trails and roads around here. And thanks to the guys at BikesOnline, I've now got the opportunity to test it out and see, should I be investing in a mountain bike to really extend my riding capability around here on the Victorian Surf Coast. So the bikes we've got today to test out this little experiment. I've got a Marin Headlands 2, a real high value gravel bike that you can pick up from BikesOnline for the kind of ridiculous price of $2,699. And for that, you're getting a full carbon frame, 45mm tire clearance. You're getting a dropper post as well, a really sort of comfy endurance geometry. A really sweet 1x12 mechanical SRAM Apex Eagle group set. So yeah, I've got a lot to say about this group set. I'm going to do a separate review of this bike, so yeah, you can check that out in the links below. So what we're going to do, we're going to go head out on this bike on a pretty typical mixed terrain route that you can do down here on the Surf Coast. A real mix of traditional smooth gravel roads, probably around sort of a grade 2-3 gravel we get down here. It's late summer now, so it's getting a bit sort of rotted and rooty and corrugated. So we'll see how the gravel bike goes there. And then we're going to head up on some of these goat tracks, these fire tracks that I regularly sort of try and explore on the gravel bike and see how it handles on that more technical terrain. I guess it's more suited to XC sort of mountain biking. And then when we've done that, we're going to come back and we're going to head out on this one. So thanks to the BikesOnline crew, I also have this to ride on the loop. So once we've come back on the gravel bike, we're going to head out on this. And this is the Polygon Siskiu D7. It's an entry-level dual suspension mountain bike that you can pick up from BikesOnline. Really great value bike. Look, I'm not going to review this bike in detail. If you want to get the specs and get some sort of expert takes on it, I'll drop some links in the below for some other reviewers. As I said, I'm just a mountain bike curious gravel cyclist. And yeah, we're going to head out on this bike and see how it goes on some of my sort of more technical gravel tracks. So the real purpose of this little test is not to say our mountain bike's better than gravel bikes. Like, I'm sold on that, gravel bikes are awesome, I'm never going to get rid of my gravel bike. What we're trying to do here is say, as a mountain bike curious gravel cyclist, should we be getting a mountain bike to complement our gravel bike, to, you know, for those days where we want to try something a little bit more technical, a little bit more adventurous, and venture a little bit further. A lot of people try and do all of that riding on their gravel bike. Look, bikes are great and versatile machines, but there is a limit, I think, to each type. So yeah, what we're going to try and do here is say, you know, when you want to do that more technical riding, what sort of experiential difference do you get when you take a mountain bike versus when you take a gravel bike, and is it worth making that investment to pick up another bike? All right, I'm really pumped for this. Let's head out on the trails and see how we go. All right, we're out for the first run on the Marin Headlands 2. Pretty traditional gravel bike. So we're going to do a bit of a loop, one that's quite familiar to me, up through the hills. So sort of a combination of sort of goat track like gravel and some wide open gravel. It's early autumn here, it's pretty dry, so there's a fair few corrugations. So yeah, used to doing this route on a gravel bike. We'll see what it's like on this one, yeah, and see how it compares to the mountain bike. All right, so first stretch here is just some sort of classic Aussie gravel roads. We're about to take a turn off, head up this little goat track. All right, so we've just come down on this pretty traditional Australian gravel road, but this is where things are going to get a bit spicy. This is just a little sort of walking, hiking, little goat track out the back of Moggs Creek here, and yeah, this is where things get fun. So this is the sort of thing where I really want to find where that line is between the gravel bikes and the mountain bikes. Been riding this for a while on my gravel bikes, and it's really fun, but there's definitely some areas where you sort of get into a bit of trouble. So yeah, we'll do it on the gravel bike and then come back and do it on the mountain bike and see how they compare. All right, got the deep breaths going. We've been climbing up this hill. Beautiful little spot, but the gradient's about to kick up. It's yeah, we're going uphill pretty quick here. So I guess a gravel bike has pros and cons in this situation. It's definitely going to be lighter than the mountain bike, quite significantly. This bike in particular has pretty decent climbing gear. Got a 40-tooth chainring compared to a 1052 at the back, so plenty of range. I guess sometimes in these situations on gravel bikes that don't have huge grippy tyres on them, I find you do sort of skid out a little bit on the back wheel if you try and get out of the saddle. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how the mountain bike compares in that sort of situation. But yeah, pretty unfit, so wish me luck getting up this one. Oh man, that's brutal. That's a big old climb, that one. Walk of shame. Handled the first section pretty well. But yeah, this rocky bit, yeah, really rough, really rooty. Probably more me than the bike, but yeah, we'll see how the mountain bike goes. All right, made it to the top of the hill. Not without a bit of pushing. Man enough to admit that. So that's sort of a really technical off-road climb, really rocky, really rooty. Look, the bike did all right. You definitely get jolted around. Hard to keep traction in some points. And yeah, this particular one did all right. I think it's that's like a head angle, sort of helps it find the line a bit better than sort of something that's a bit more aggressive at the front. And that short chainstay on this bike, even coming up there, like you notice the fun. Like you kind of want that short chainstay in behind you to yeah, make it feel nice and tight and responsive in the back end. So yeah, you definitely get that with this bike, which is good. So it might not have suspension. It might not really be suited for this level of gravel track, but it's pretty fun, this bike. And yeah, it's still pretty stable, like nice and tight in the back end, but really confident at the front, and you can kind of send it just as you would, yeah, on a mountain bike perhaps. But yeah, so I mean, the proof will be in the pudding. It might not be as fast, but yeah, it's pretty fun to sort of be that little bit underbiked, I reckon. So yeah, enjoying this. Yeah, this gravel bike is loving the gravel road section here. Really in its element. Climbs nice and responsively. Not too floppy at the front end. Yeah, it makes for a very pleasant experience on what is an absolutely stunning day here in the Surf Coast. I made it through that corrugated descent. Really got shaken up down there, so yeah, we'll see the impact that suspension has on the next run. So in a short section of tarmac here, very short, but yeah, gravel bikes right at home. Nice and smooth, fast, efficient, tyres roll nice. Yeah, I think this is not going to be a fun little section on the mountain bike, but great here on the gravel. All right, this last sector of the ride, very nice, smooth, open gravel roads. A little bit of a climb and a little bit of ascent, and then back to where we started. So, a few thoughts on this one. Yeah, the gravel bike shines on the gravel, really at home, not surprising. Not breaking any ground with some big takes there. And it does fine on the rough stuff, and it's fun to be underbiked. Yeah, it gets over its depth sometimes. Sometimes you get shaken around a bit, but you know, that's kind of half the fun of riding gravel, to sort of push the limits a little bit. So yeah, I think for this sort of ride where you're doing maybe 50% nice gravel, 50% sort of single track, real sort of cross-country mountain bike stuff, I think gravel bike still makes a lot of sense. Whoa, corrugations. And this is the sort of riding that got me sort of fell in love with gravel cycling. So yeah, certainly I haven't got an issue with it. I'm just curious. I'm just curious about where that experience lies on a mountain bike versus a gravel bike. So yeah, intrigued to see how the next run goes. All right, second run. Now it's time to see what the mountain bike can do. Yeah, this will be interesting. Looking forward to it. All right, with that same spot coming off the gravel, and yeah, about to head up the single track into the bush. So pretty rocky, pretty rooty. Starts off pretty gentle, but then yeah, at the top it gets really really a bit gnarly. So yeah, keen to see how this one goes climbing. I think it's going to stay a bit more planted in the front. You'll be able to power through those sort of rocky, technical, rooty bits a bit better. And yeah, the gearing is a little bit lower. I think it's a 32 tooth front chainring on this. Similar size cassette at the back. So yeah, that smaller front chainring should let us spin up a bit easier. On the gravel bike, we had to walk. Let's see how we go on the mountain bike. Ooh, sucking in the big one. So this is where I had to get off and walk on the gravel bike. Mountain bike did really well. The lower gearing definitely helps. Big tires help you maintain that traction. One really noticeable difference, you've got to work hard to keep your weight on the front wheel. Mountain bike front wheel's way out in front of you compared to the gravel. So where on the gravel, I find I lose traction on the back wheel. On the mountain bike, it's the front wheel. You just got to keep enough weight on it so you don't start wheeling. Wasn't really expecting that. I know it's, you know, in hindsight, a bit of a common theme that mountain bikers talk about. But yeah, one thing to think about when you're doing this sort of work or you're thinking about transitioning from gravel to mountain bike. All right, a bit further up the climb now, getting rockier, steeper. Just stop for a breather. Whilst it's easier to stay on your bike, certainly no easier to pedal. You've still got to put out the watts, which I'm learning the hard way today. Yeah, it's a little less mentally taxing as well. You don't need to pick your line as well. You have a bit more confidence. The front does sort of waddle a little bit, especially on the, not so much on the really steep sections, but maybe the intermediate where you relax a little. Just notice the front sort of, yeah, it does start to wobble, which you don't get on the gravel. But all in all, it's a bit more pleasant of an experience climbing this sort of track on this mountain bike compared to the gravel yesterday. All right, up and puffing, made it to the top of that climb. Much better experience on the mountain bike, I think. This is as I said in the intro, a Polygon Siskiu D7. So it's a sort of a halfway between a cross country and a trail bike. It's got 67-degree head angle, which sort of more modern XC bikes seem to be going. I think if you had a slightly steeper head angle, more like a gravel bike, maybe around sort of 69, maybe keeping that front wheel planted would overcome that issue. How it would affect the rest of the climbing, I'm not sure. I think coming up here, I spoke about the gravel bike having a nice responsive feel in the back end. You don't have that on this. It's obviously much more squishy dual suspension, but it's also less, yeah, I guess less fun factor in terms of reacting to each pedal stroke, where, you give that up, but you do get that stability, that confidence, and that ability to power through, not having to pick your line. So yeah, pros and cons of both, but on the balance, I'd say if we're climbing up a hill like that, you're gonna have a better experience on the mountain bike, but we'll see how that evens out over the rest of the ride. So up next, we're gonna do a bit more of a technical downhill, see how that goes. So it turns out going downhill on a mountain bike is pretty fun as well. Yeah, it's pretty astonishing the difference on this technical terrain, what you can achieve with minimal bike handling skills on a mountain bike compared to the gravel. You can really just sort of point, let go of the brakes, have real confidence, drop a post is longer, it really gets out of the way. You can put your weight wherever you need it. But yeah, you can get away with way more. Pretty sandy here too. The gravel bike gets in trouble sometimes in the sandy bits. Thinner tires, less tread, and it just kind of doesn't, yeah, sinks into the sand and flops a bit. Mountain bike, still got to be a little bit cautious, but yeah, it goes straight through sand that you'd be very cautious, or you'd even be going around on the gravel bike. So yeah, this is starting to turn into a bit of an existential crisis for me. I love gravel, but man, this mountain biking stuff's pretty fun too. It's not a bad place to go riding, is it? Oh, pretty lucky here. Look at this stunning gravel road. Beautiful views over the hills. It's April here. It's like 26 degrees, sunny. Yeah, it's a stunning day to be out on the bike, and even though I might be having an existential crisis, I don't know if there's a better place to have one. I cannot wipe the smile off my face. Descending on a mountain bike on technical terrain like that is just damn fun. I think, yeah, like it's doable on a gravel bike. it's fun on a gravel bike. Having now done it on this, I think it's a different type of fun. It's that fun of like being right on the edge, not knowing, you know, I've talked about underbiking on the gravel bike, not knowing sort of where you can maybe push it a little bit too far. So that sort of living on the edge feel, that sort of rush of adrenaline on this, it's just unadulterated, pure joy. You have so much confidence, you don't even worry about where the line is. You can just go. And that's coming from someone with very self-proclaimed, very poor bike handling skills. It just lets you get away with so much. And you can just send it. The speed is exhilarating. The confidence, the lack of trepidation that you feel. Yeah, I think I'm pretty sold on that. Next step of the ride though is this more smooth traditional gravel road, sort of gentle gravel climb. This is where the gravel bike really shone on its loop, like really fun, responsive to pedaling, and yeah, it was really sort of nice to ride uphill on the smooth gravel. Mountain bike's less attuned to this sort of stuff, so yeah, we'll see if it sort of takes away from the whole ride experience having to do this sort of road on a mountain bike. All right, made it to the top of this gravel climb. Little steep pinch there at the end. So yeah, you definitely feel like you're fighting gravity a bit more on the mountain bike. Yeah, it's not quite as nippy to get up and go up the hill. Seated comfort's an interesting one. So you got rear suspension here. I've just noticed like on the gravel where it's really like that fine sort of vibration you want to get rid of. I reckon you get more out of a carbon seat post on a gravel bike than you do out of a rear suspension on a gravel bike. Just you can sort of still feel the rigid post coming up there. Yeah, something to consider if you're doing predominantly sort of pea gravel. You might want to, yeah, in that scenario, the gravel bike is probably going to be better. The other thing is the position. Like, it's pretty upright on that Marin, but yeah, coming up there on this, you're even more upright. There's a bit of a headwind, and you can just feel your body catching the breeze like a sail, which makes the climb a little bit harder as well. So a little less rewarding on the mountain bike coming up the gravel climb than you have on a gravel bike. Yeah, I think I'm slowly coming to the conclusion here that gravel bikes are better for riding gravel and mountain bikes are better for riding cross-country mountain bike trails. But yeah, I think what we're trying to do here is work out where that line is and whether, as a gravel enthusiast, whether you should be investing in a mountain bike. And yeah, I think I'm coming to a conclusion on that, but we'll wait till the end of the ride to really nut that one in. All right, that's the smooth gravel climb done. One other thing I noticed coming up there, this is only a short loop, but even doing this, I reckon hand positions is another consideration here. So on the mountain bike, you're sort of locked into your hand positions, whereas on the drop bar, you've got a few options on the hoods or on the tops, even in the drops if you need. I think that makes a difference to sort of fatigue management. So yeah, something to consider if you're considering mountain bike or gravel, maybe for longer adventure sort of rides. Whilst the technical stuff is better handled on a mountain bike, maybe the fatigue management might be better on a gravel bike. Who knows? Hard to say, but yeah, one other consideration. All right, got this corrugated descent coming up that we did yesterday on the gravel bike. Really shook us up. The arms got a good rattling. So yeah, we'll see how the front suspension and the rear suspension conquers the gravel corrugations, which is a big consideration for a lot of people riding gravel, particularly here in Australia. So yeah, this will be another big test for the mountain bike. I made it to the bottom of the corrugations. I reckon we handled that much better on the mountain bike with the suspension. It doesn't soak it all up, like you still get rattled. Maybe it just doesn't handle the high frequency, but yeah, certainly a more pleasurable and a faster ride down than on the gravel bike yesterday, where you're really sort of grabbing each corrugation through the arms. Stretch of tarmac here. This is where I thought the mountain bike might not be as fun. Let's see how it goes. Look, first 50 meters or so, the tires are definitely more sluggish. Like you don't feel like you're rolling along as fast, they sort of hum. Yeah, you sort of got to definitely push on the pedals a bit harder. But yeah, it's only a short stretch and no one wants to be riding tarmac for a long time on the mountain bike, which I guess is, yeah, another consideration. If you're going to be doing mixed terrain where there is lots of tarmac, then definitely a vote for the gravel bike instead. Let's have a talk about sort of the general riding experience on the mountain bike. If you haven't ridden mountain bikes a lot like me, might be curious, like shifting performance, excellent. Yeah, really nice and clean and fast. As I said, this is an entry-level mountain bike. Nothing flash, but yeah, the shifts are great. I like the wide position of the handlebars. Gives you a lot of leverage and control. The tires, you don't notice them unless you're, in terms of rolling resistance, you don't notice them unless you're really on the tarmac. Otherwise they roll pretty fast. You do catch the wind more upright position. The weight's an interesting one. Like, this is a way heavier bike than that gravel bike I was riding yesterday. I actually don't notice it that much. The gearing's a bit lower. Like, if you look at your times, maybe you'd be feeling it there, but yeah, the gearing's much lower. So in terms of the effort you need to get up hills, you can still get up them. From a ride experience, yeah, it's less responsive, but what you get in terms of capability and comfort, yeah, it's hard to argue. All right, made it to the end of that last gravel climb here, nearly at the end of the loop. One thing I just wanted to point out there, so when I'm climbing gravel, I really like to stay seated. I think it helps keep the back wheel planted, allows you to put out the power, sort of spin to win. You got the gears low enough to do it. So that's how I kind of like to climb gravel. And when you're in the seat, climbing the mountain bike is sort of a very similar experience. You got those low gears, you just sit and spin. Yeah, it's a bit heavier. It takes a little bit longer, but you got lower gears, so you can sort of spin even more than on the gravel bike. But one thing I did there on one of the steeper pinches was jump out of the saddle and see how it responded. Wow, whilst the climbing experience is similar on the mountain bike and the gravel when you're in the seat, completely different experience when you jump out. Dual suspension bike, it just bobs. You feel like you're not going anywhere, just straight up and down. So if you like to climb out of the saddle, definitely keep that in mind if you're thinking about switching over to mountain bike. But yeah, nearly to the end of the loop, and then we'll sit and gather our thoughts and see what the conclusions are. Right, back to where the gravel meets the sea. There was a bit of a faster gravel descent coming down there, not as corrugated. So yeah, something else I picked up that yeah, also got a bit of a headwind coming through. So the position and the lack of aerodynamics on the mountain bike is quite noticeable there. It's actually hard to keep the speed rolling. So yeah, on the gravel when it's not as technical, yeah, the descents are probably a bit more fun on the gravel bike than on the mountain bike, because that upright position just acts as a sail and you can't really get that speed going. Yeah, real difference to the descent on the more technical sort of gravel tracks that we did a bit earlier. So yeah, this is the end of the loop. We'll go have a rest, have a shower, and sit down, gather our thoughts, and yeah, let's think about the conclusions of this little experiment. All right, back from the ride. Let's talk through some conclusions. So really fun on this mountain bike. I had a great time. Really lets you enjoy those more technical sections much more than on the gravel bike, where you sort of feel like you're really pushing the limit, whereas this, you just let it go and it's just, as I said, out there, pure unadulterated joy, particularly on the downhills and those technical climbs. It was, yeah, a much better climber than the gravel bike as well. Definitely held back on some of the sort of more steady, smoother gravel climbs. You definitely feel like you're working against gravity. And that, yeah, that's just a more fun, sort of that responsive experience you get on the gravel bike, you just don't get on this. So yeah, as I said at the start, this was never about, you know, should I get a mountain bike or a gravel bike? This is about, you know, should I get a mountain bike to complement my gravel bike, to let me go a bit further and explore a bit further. So yeah, I think the answer there is yes. I think it's definitely gonna let you enjoy those sort of more technical trails, and if you've got the bug for cycling through gravel, then yeah, getting a mountain bike is just going to let you take that next level. Now, would I get this one? This is an awesome value bike. It's, you know, less than 1,700 Aussie dollars, and yeah, you're getting a dual suspension for that package. I think that really lets it shine on those downhills. Yeah, so I think you can't really go wrong with this bike. You're getting a pretty high spec, and if you're going to get a second bike and you don't want to be spending, you know, thousands and thousands of dollars on it, you get this Polygon Siskiu D7, and I think you're going to be in great stead. As I said, check out some other reviews if you're interested. I am left sort of wondering whether maybe even a carbon hardtail mountain bike, or just a hardtail mountain bike in general might be a little bit of a better sort of next step. As I said, coming up some of those gravel climbs, if you get out of the saddle, you get that bob going. The carbon hardtail might obviously be a lot lighter, which will, yeah, give you a bit more perhaps responsive and easier climbing. And yeah, maybe a slightly steeper head angle. This is 67, which yeah, was great on the downhills. On those really steep climbs, as I said, you've really got to work to get your weight on the front wheel. So maybe if we just stick that in a little bit, maybe around sort of 68, 69, then yeah, maybe that'd help that. But so yeah, that's something I'm keen to try out in the future. But yeah, really impressed with this bike, and yeah, if I get the chance to hold on to it, I'm definitely keen to. So yeah, let me know what you think if you're a gravel cycling enthusiast and you want to try out mountain biking. Yeah, what do you reckon? What sort of bike would you go for? And yeah, is it something that you're looking to add to your stable? Drop us a comment, like and subscribe, and thanks for watching. And yeah, check out the Gravel Cycling Australia podcast for more great gravel cycling content relevant to yeah, our gravel scene here in Australia. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.